Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh goes viral for noting Trump restoring military bases to their original names, such as Robert E. Lee. Chicago anti-ICE mob blocks traffic goes viral, while Gavin Newsom says that they should not give it to Trump as his state burns to the ground in disarray and riots. Kia notes that regulation is to blame for the death of gas performance vehicles, and Ford recalls nearly 500,000 other SUVs. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see your founder at least twice a day. Guys say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's Messi, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase, with Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shoot a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Kia noting that government regulation is the cause of the death of glorious gas cars. This is brought to us thanks to Motor1.com, specifically Adrian, who's right over there. And they say, quote, Kia blames regulation for the death of gas performance vehicles. Ugh, and future Kia performance vehicles will be, their GTs are going to be electric, which will be great for all 16 prospective people who want to buy that. And here you can see one of the last engines, not glorious, but fairly admirable for a, budget performance vehicle. Now, Adrian says, quote, we recently mourned the loss of fun gas-powered cars in Europe due to the totalitarian evil government. Oh, wait, I misread that. He said, tightening emissions regulations. But the situation is actually worse. The gradual demise of the performance vehicles with combustion engines is happening worldwide. Globalist. Kia is the latest automaker to announce that its future sports cars will be purely electric, meet stricter regulation. And here you can see one of the previous fun old Kia Stinger GTs, which, not too bad for bang for buck. Big old engine, got 4 doors to the family. Sure, it's not a Chevy SS with a stick shift and a glorious American V8, but still pretty cool. Now they say, quote, Kia's Australia's product chief, Rolando Rivero, told carsales.com that automakers have no choice but to, quote, satisfy the global situation and CO2 regulations are tightening around the globe. AKA globalists taking over and want to control everything in our life. That's what I would say. Now, he continues saying that, quote, if there's a silver lining in all of this, is that the GT badge will live on more electric vehicles. The new EV4 is a prime candidate to receive the electric GT treatment. Riviero remains optimistic about catering to enthusiasts. Even in an increasingly electrified era, he believes, quote, there's no reason why an electrified product can't give you a sim. It's not supposed to be a joke. He's claiming that there's, quote, no reason why an electrified product can't give you a similar experience to the internal combustion engine of vehicles, albeit some computer tech and whatnot, unquote. They absolutely cannot give you that. It will not be a comparable experience. It'll be woefully depressing and pathetic, kind of like the new Dodge Charger EV, which again has 18 people who bought it and they love it. However, everyone else just wants a good old V8 stick shift and American muscle, though in that case they're made in Canada. Now, he continues saying that, quote, still yet another car like the Stinger GT with its V6 engine isn't going to happen. The GT badge is already appearing in electrified vehicles, such as the EV GT. Meanwhile, the smart EV6 GT recently received an update that includes simulated gear shifts and engine sounds. You could tease what you could have if you didn't have totalitarian governments cracking down on emissions. Well, at least emissions for you and I. Of course, India and China can pollute like there's no tomorrow, but no, we have to drive disposable junk vehicles. Now, they say that Hyundai's N division may have axed the i20N and i30N hot hatches, the Kona N crossover, and quirky Veloster N, but it's not ready to abandon the internal combustion just yet. The company still sells the Elantra N and has pledged to launch a next generation model with a bigger engine, which, as far as I know, I believe that is this last Kia that's a fun car with a stick shift, which is pretty rare these days. There's only actually less than 30 new vehicles you get in the United States with a stick shift option. Obviously, stick shift should be default for every vehicle, but I'm not president yet. I'm only kidding. But he says, quote, the company still sells the Elantra N and has pledged next generation will be ICE. They noted that hybrid powertrains are also becoming more popular and will help keep fun cars alive under the N badge. Addressing the elephant in the room, any hybrid or EV with performance chops will come with a weighty penalty. Yeah, those ginormous batteries as well. This is especially true for the fully electric performance cars, but that's a compromise because automakers seem willing to accept. Hyundai and Kia appear to be leaning into SUVs for now, which only exacerbates the situation. But that's the reality of 2025. Consumers want SUVs and governments want to reduce their emissions. To satisfy both demands and stay in business, car companies are producing more electric SUVs. Yeah, let's see how those sell. Especially after the government in the United States removes those juicy tax incentives like the $7,500 tax refund if you buy a disposable EV vehicle. So kind of sad that Kia's going to lean into or bend over to the governments and acquiesce and make vehicles that are disposable, boring, and of course, no independent mechanic or third parties to realistically work on. So definitely some sad news to the automotive community. And let's just say I'm never going to be buying one of these. But let me know, do you think there'll ever be a performance EV? I mean, also you can't take them to a track or realistically charge them in between track sessions. But they say it's going to be a sporty vehicle and they're going to try to push in the track. But let me know in the comments because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the cultural part of the podcast, you have Matt Walsh noting that Trump is restoring some military bases and their names, specifically one such as named Robert E. Lee. Now, this brought us thanks to Matt Walsh on X. He's responding to the New York Post. The New York Post said, quote, Trump orders names restored to military bases honoring Robert E. Lee and other Confederate leaders. Now, Matt Walsh responded saying, quote, Robert E. Lee was a man of great honor and integrity, qualities that his modern critics can't comprehend. He was given a choice between taking up his sword against his home and community and his family or standing beside them in battle. He chose the latter. Any reasonable person can understand why he made that choice, unquote. And this is, I think, Matt's most viral tweet of the month. It got 2.8 million views as well as 27,000 likes. Matt Walsh continued and he commented saying, quote, Lee didn't enter the war to defend slavery and Lincoln didn't enter the war to abolish it. That's one of the most basic realities of the Civil War that somehow escapes almost everyone in the modern age, unquote. It got 6.8 thousand likes for that specific comment, which, yeah, people forget. Oh, yeah, less than 1.9% Americans owned slaves in the United States at that time. People seem to forget those statistics, but I partially digress. One of the other top comments come to us thanks to Ryan. He says, quote, Trump is giving credit to real heroes of America. The woke names they had will never come back. Getting 75 likes, which I'm surprised there's a lot of merchandise around the whole Alex Jones was right, which the only thing more concerning, I was going to say, it's interesting to see how many times he's been proven right throughout the years. Let's just say those put the dollar in the Alex Jones was right jars, they are overflowing with funds. I'm surprised they don't have the same thing for Trump because he famously said years ago, if you tear down historical statues of Confederate soldiers and leaders, eventually they'll go after all the statues. And lo and behold, they did. Chicago famously got rid of the Thomas Jefferson statue out of the main courthouse, the main administrative building for the government. They later put it back after mass protest, but in other cases they tore down, Frederick Douglass and other famous historical leaders. And yeah, there's no limit to the pure insanity of leftism in 1984 fashion. Now, going back to the top comments, you have Hamas, top guy, says, quote, turns on MSNBC, and Gal saying, quote, General Robert E. Lee was a traitor to the Union, gave 479 likes. Some person, I was going to say, that's a pretty generic name, or specific. It's very accurate. It is, in fact, some person. Although that's just what AI would want us to think. We'll say this alleged some person claims, quote, I'm a supremacist, but I don't exactly revere Robert E. Lee. You, on the other hand, are seemingly a civic nationalist, but revere him. I don't get it. Slavery is more abhorrent. This person is right. He says, I want black out of my country, but would never enslave him. Gave 59 likes and 80 responses. Was he ratioed? DJ Engel responded saying, quote, LOL, what an internet take. Robert E. Lee fought for the Virginia he loved. That's ancient standard of nobility, getting 113 likes. So as youth might say, he was certainly, yeah, that's been a snap. Ratioed. There we go. I was about to say I have many skill sets. Snapping is not one of them, but I should be honest. I have not many. I have some skill sets. You got Logan Hall saying, quote, Eisenhower called Robert E. Lee one of the 4 greatest Americans in history. In which he says, quote, anyone who ever tries to push me in any other relationship with respect to Robert E. Lee is mistaken. Gained 1.3 thousand likes. That guy says, I'm related to Lee. He had more choices. He could have not taken up arms. He chose, and he picked the traitor's side. He lost. History remembers the winners and losers. Gained 516 likes. Blakely says, quote, anyone defending the traitors to the Union like Robert E. Lee were also traitors. Or sorry, are also traitors. Bad grammar on my part. Or lack of ability to read. Either way, that got 1.1 thousand likes. Pregnant Redhead says, quote, Trump's right to restore history, not erase it. Gained 55 likes. Steel Dan Maximist says, quote, Robert E. Lee was an incredibly complex and interesting man. I have a lot of respect for him. Gained 218 likes. Hank says, quote, understanding Lee's choices require a basic theory of mind, a concept that leftism cannot define, let alone possess. Gained 370 likes. Ford? Bacon? Pretty unique name. Kind of weird, though I don't have much ground to stand on. Now, he says, quote, Matt Walsh cries every day about the Confederacy losing the Civil War. Gained 1.2 thousand likes. Which, I mean, I followed Matt for a couple years on the X. I think he's mentioned 3 or 4 tweets about it throughout the years. You also have Ed Clinton Jr. saying, quote, he was a racist and a traitor who defended a human chattel slavery. He was also the rebels' best commander, not a hero. Gained 28 likes. AH says Robert E. Lee was a traitor who took up arms against the United States in defense of slavery. This is a fact, gained 150 likes. A rare instance where I think a majority of the comments are ratioing Matt Walsh. Socrates 2023 says there's no honor supporting the enslavement of God's children, none, from the original version of the Battle Hymn of the Republic. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free. That is how they were on a holy crusade. God won. Gained 164 likes. Which, kind of the cliche of the age-old argument would be defending your house, your family, your community, especially when the North was using the tactic of scorched earth. So literally when they took over town, they burned everything to the ground from houses to crops. So anyone left would surely starve to death. But yeah, I was going to say, I think Matt Walsh is ratioed beyond all belief. At least majority of comments are against him. But yeah, I think it's definitely a mistake to erase history, as anyone who read George Orwell's novels such as 1984 and Animal Farm would, I would suspect, agree with, because age-old saying is those who forget history are bound to repeat it. But let me know your thoughts. Do you think we should permanently change all these buildings, all these institutions, and just kind of erase that part of history? Let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have Chicago irate about the anti-ICE protests going viral, and they're even blocking traffic. And yeah, it's yet another reason not to live in Chicago, as if you needed one. This brought to us thanks to End Wokeness, in which he says, quote, a fed-up driver just threw the anti-ICE mob blocking off traffic in Chicago. This is credited to CBS News, Chicago affiliate. Let's see here.
We'll show you here. There's the red car that's coming in, and you'll see people trying to get out of the way, others standing in front, and others beating the car, trying to slow it down or stop it. And then you'll see the officer right there as it passed. We'll show you here.
There you go. Made it right through.
There's the red car that's coming in, and you'll see people trying to get out of the way, others standing in front, and others beating the car, trying to slow it down or stop it. And then you'll see the officer right there.
I'm trying to slap it. Look at that. And very effeminate looking officer. Red car made it. Because again, let's be honest, who are the police going to help in this situation? You saw in many instances, like the George Floyd Summer of Love riots, where the police actually went after the good guys because they're outnumbered by the bad guys. Now, this got 2.2 million views and 51,000 likes. And yet another reason I'm in the wrong business. I mean, instead of selling IT and providing services in the industry, why not manufacture the cow catcher and start welding them onto the front of vehicles? I mean, old-timey trains used to have that way back in the day when you had cattle on there. Now, interestingly enough, a lot of these protesters do have the body composition of cattle, and many of the women do have the cattle ring on their nose. A lot of parallels in history as it repeats itself, but a good way to get those quote-unquote peaceful protesters out of the way. Not legal advice, of course, but might be able to push them out of the way with one of those cow catchers on the front of your vehicle. And again, this should be and again, I'm not a fan of most federal laws when it comes to protecting good guys. I can't but think there should be a law that says there are people standing in the middle of the street. They should not be able to sue you if they jump on your vehicle or you hit them, or like these quote unquote. There's nothing more infuriating and annoying than a protester standing in the street and disturbing their work. Granted, that is their job because many of them are paid to disrupt the public and cause a ruckus. But some of us actually have to get to work, and it's so, especially environmentalists, they are famous for now blocking traffic and inconveniencing everyone's days, ironically causing more emissions as cars stand there, because they're not moving. But I partially digress. That's not what this specific protest and gathering is about. But look at all these idiots just standing in the middle of the street. Yeah. And I was going to say, thank God that driver got out of Chicago alive. That's actually a rare instance. And yeah, I would be very concerned about being stopped with the crowd around you in Chicago, or as many people call it, Chirac. And I was about to say fun fact, it's a sad fact of the day. When the U.S. was involved in the Middle East, more Americans died on a daily basis in Chicago than Iraq, which shows you the culture of Chicago. I'm sure it'll be a safe, great place to move your business to next year and your family. And it's obviously not, just like the Chicago Bears. Every year they say they'll be good next year. Yeah, that is in fact not true. The last time the Bears won the Super Bowl, they saved the pictures on a floppy disk, which people don't even know what it is anymore because it's an outdated, some debate in outdated media format. But if you use Microsoft, that's the save logo. That's what it's based off of. It was an actual floppy disk, which ages me quite a bit. Now, going to the actual comments, one of the first ones comes to us thanks to our favorite contrarian, the gas stove, who, if you go to the profile, they literally admit that they're a contrarian, which makes them interesting. Now, this gas stove says, quote, the driver has committed homicide. It's homicided. Whoa. Getting 19 likes and 84 responses. When the first person responds is Virus Invictus Perdium, saying, quote, that's not homicide, that's self-defense from domestic terrorist. Look at the damaged windshield from projectiles. Getting 88 likes. Dungeon Master says they should be arresting the anti-ICE protesters too because words are also literally homicide, getting 3 likes. Paul Von Misses says no one was hurt except your ego, getting 2 likes. Ruth Brown says where I don't see any injuries, let alone a death, getting 5 likes. Someone just has a meme, or as some people say, meme. Not as fancy to say it that way, but the meme of Trump simply saying wrong. Or no, it's a GIF, or GIF, as some people might say. Now going back to the main comment section, Fatima Khan says, quote, Trump is wasting $134 million of taxpayer money to send troops to Los Angeles. For that same amount, we could be building 1,600 new affordable homes in the Seattle area. Stop wasting money on political stunts and start investing in things that our communities need. Mentally vacuous, but got 40 likes and 360 responses. I say mentally vacuous because for decades we've been fighting the quote-unquote fighting the war on poverty by spending ungodly amounts of money, and yet it fixes nothing. One of the most useless things is giving homeless people housing without proper medication, therapies, and actual help for them. Because again, there's an issue. There's a reason they don't have a house. It's not just because they can't afford it. A lot of these people have mental health issues. Sometimes they have physical health issues as well. But yeah, just building affordable homes in Seattle, that would do nothing. And in terms of Trump actually sending troops to Los Angeles, because again, there are some innocent people. A lot of people say you get what you vote for, you get what you deserve kind of thing. There are some good people, maybe like 18, I'm kidding, maybe 23 people that are good that live in Los Angeles that do not deserve these riots to be happening to them. And they are federal taxpayers. Granted, California also steals a lot of money in terms of us bailing them out, such as them spending billions of dollars on healthcare on illegals. But I partially digress. They're a taxpaying state. They provide some value, as most businesses actually leave there. But nevertheless, the innocent people need to be protected. And well, I don't know if they could save California if it's too far gone. But yeah, $135 is also a lot, but $134 million is also a lot. I'm not sure where they actually got that number from. The first response is from PT simply saying, eat shit, getting 247 likes, or as you might say, ratioing this person beyond all belief. Nilla Wafer says, quote, no one wants their money to go into the black hole NGO that's building affordable homes. Yeah, right, Seattle is literally a shithole, getting 53 likes. Fact check or community notes, true. I met a couple friends who escaped the hellhole that is Seattle, and Yeah, that is a communist hellhole where there's so much regulation. Anyone with molecular intelligence or people who just want to make an honest living, most of them leave for a freedom-loving state. And that's another good point in terms of spending money on affordable housing. I mean, California spent what $28 billion in 2024 on homelessness, and they had nothing to show for it. And they went to the houses and they weren't even fully assembled. I mean, they could not account for that money. And of course, if you and I to make a clerical error or fudge our taxes, we go to jail. We get fined. You get the Wesley Snipes treatment. But California, 28 billion. Who knows where it went? They'll just reelect Gavin Newsom again, which is ridiculous. Going back to the main comment section, Mr. Reality says, quote, running over protesters illegally obstructing a roadway shouldn't be illegal. Getting 1.5 thousand likes. Yeah, fact check, true. Because again, a lot of these protesters also we saw them throwing literally bricks and stones at police vehicles and other vehicles over the highway roadway in another instance. Now that was again Los Angeles. I mean, they're clearly posing a threat. Can't help but think more often than not, the bad guys get more protection than the good guys. Womack says, who did this? And it's Robert Downey Jr. says, when you thought you hit a dog, but it was just an anti-ICE protester, getting 798 likes. A little dark humor as Robert Downey Jr. looks very relieved in this meme. You also have Western Decline saying, quote, how to end all protests overnight. Ban Soros from America and confiscate his wealth, getting 373 likes. Which, I mean, he's international. You're never going to ban his wealth. But yeah, he has a disproportionate amount of effect on U.S. policies and cities. And fascinatingly enough, I've never found it to improve any of the quality of living or those cities in general. Ludwig Millie von Adams says, or has actually just a picture, says, quote, all lives splatter. Nobody cares about your protests. Keep your ass off the damn road. 111 likes. And yeah, that's a good point. People just want to get to work. Well, who work for a living. Again, it's so annoying when people have protests on the road. Again, have a peaceful protest on the sidewalks so that people can still walk past. In fact, I implore you, go to Home Depot or go to more likely Hobby Lobby. Get some really nice quality cardstock or maybe foam board. That's pretty good. And you can let your peaceful message, be known. I think that's a great idea. But again, don't inconvenience people so they can't get to work and then threaten their lives and throw stuff in their cars. That's clearly a threat. Going down more and more. You have, oh geez Louise, Kevin from Wyoming having a picture of an ice cream truck with some red splatter on the hood. And he says, quote, just drove through there. I don't see any protesters, getting 78 likes. Western Decline also says, Democrats support the following: criminal illegal immigrants, men and women's sports, terrorist organizations. Did I miss anything? Getting 50 likes. Pretty much every other country except us in terms of our tax funding. Hopefully USAID never creeps up again. Jeez Louise, talk about a waste of money. Zidahe says, quote, don't blame him. Protesters who block roadways should be treated as speed bumps. No right to block others right away, getting 73 likes. Now, again, the issue is a lot of these roads, a vast majority of the time, they're state roads. They're actually not, federal highways. So again, my idea of having a federal law that protects you, again, I'm definitely not a lawyer, though I do own a suit, but it's an instance where, in terms of, where would these prospective crimes and, these laws all be? It's all on a local state level. But yeah, it's more lawlessness spreading throughout the country, and yet another reason not to live in a city as if you didn't already need one. But let me know, do you think, will these protesters ever stop, or will the funding for the paid protesters ever stop? Let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part podcast, you have Gavin Newsom saying that we shouldn't give in to Trump and should totally peacefully protest. And now he says that. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Colin Rugg, which he says, quote, Justin, California Governor Gavin Newsom appears to be trying to tear up as he tells Californians not to give in to Donald Trump. Yeah, don't let Trump save the day with the Marines. Don't let law and order come to your state. Again, it is so mentally vacuous that Democrats and, the governor and the mayor of LA and the governor of California are blaming Trump. Bass, gosh, she's so mentally vacuous. She basically set up the ingredients or made the roadmap for the city to be burnt to the ground. But yeah, this is a place where she was saying, oh yeah, none of this would happen if you, just let the crime happen. She basically, she said, oh yeah, if the ICE wasn't doing these raids, no one would be upset or no one would be angry. So just like a shitty parent, she's saying, oh yeah, just let the behavior go, never correct it. Which kind of the philosophy of whole California or most leftist cities. Now, without too much further ado, and there you go. See the slimy Gavin Newsom. Let's hear what he has to say. Oh. The battery will work here. Can I be too upset when things don't work in IT? Because shoot, that'd be half my job gone. We attempt at apologies of that. Reconnect that. Well, this is funny. Fun fact: if you're ever having issues in life, or more accurately with a computer, resetting the computer doesn't fix it every time, but more often than not, the magical pixies inside do fix after you do that. But try one more time to connect. I'll just go ahead. Sorry about that.
At this moment, we all need to stand up and be held to account, a higher level of accountability. If you exercise your First Amendment rights, please, please do it peacefully. I know many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear, but I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to him.
Yeah, after not arresting bad guys for decades and with all their bombastic rhetoric, now he's saying, oh yeah, now you should be peaceful. All while they are a sanctuary state, used to enforce the law, but yeah, be peaceful. Now, this pretty valid got 1.2 million views and 4.6 thousand likes, with one of the first major comments coming to us thanks to Gunther Eagleman, who says, quote, I hope everyone understands that Newsom doesn't mean a single word he says. Gained 3.4 thousand likes, and yeah. The gas stove, our favorite contrarian, says, quote, I don't think he slept in the last 144 hours. He's working tirelessly, unlike other governors like DeSantis, which that is comical to think of Gavin Newsom actually working for a living, putting in more than a couple hours a day. Though that did get 36 likes and 82 comments. First comment coming from Johnny B. Dog says, quote, what's he working on? Getting 22 likes. The gas stove says, ending Trump's tyranny. So mentally vacuous. Benjamin Brand said, quote, yeah, being a drug addict and staying awake isn't working. What's he done other than post on X about how shitty a job he does? Getting 9 likes. DH Energy says, quote, he's gaslighting, lying sack of shit. Cock getting 9 likes. It's not simple, says, quote, working tirelessly on getting you that high-speed rail by 2048, 2084 tops. Getting 14 likes. Another great example of the corruption and or ineptitudes of California. They spent billions of dollars on high-speed rail, and they've assembled, like, what, 12 feet? Yeah, it's got to be one of the most corrupt states in the union. Paul Suzupa says, quote, Gavin Newsom is trying to protect illegals at all costs. He's making that clear, getting 394 likes. I mean, they literally spent billions of dollars in healthcare for illegals in California, while taxpayers struggle to make a living and keep the lights on. Barefoot Pregnant says, quote, Trump brings strength, Newsom brings speeches and blame, getting 131 likes. Going down more and more. Salty Cracker says, I have just wife, getting 2.8 thousand likes. That's one of the top comments. Carter Family says, crocodile tears, lol, this guy's a fraud, getting 709 likes. The Undercurrent says, quote, Newsom out there acting like a hostage in his own video, tearing up while defending the chaos he created. Bro, blink twice if Sacramento's holding you captive, getting 449 likes. Got some funny AI with Newsom standing in front of LA as it burns to the ground. This is credited thanks to Guy, and Guy says Newsom must resign. California, getting 350 likes. As they only lose Fortune 500 companies and pretty much only lose people. I'm sure, like the city of Chicago, they'll be great next year. No, absolutely not. Going by more and more. Ethan, I fact-checked this a couple weeks ago, I think. It's not all correct, but it's mostly correct. It says, why is Gavin Newsom smiling? They say highest poverty rate in the nation, which was Alabama. Highest gas tax in the nation. Actually not. It's the second. I did a whole book report on this, like, in high school, actually. And fascinatingly enough, some things never change, like taxes. The highest state in the United States for sales tax on gasoline is actually Pennsylvania. Now, the highest gas in terms of cost to the consumer is California, because California has their special BS, special gasoline they have to add to their specifics. So in terms of actual formulation and emissions, all that kind of stuff, they have certain stricter emissions in California. So that special gasoline costs more to produce because there's only a couple refineries that can do it, and it's only for that state. So you're increasing the cost of goods sold to the consumer. So Even though it's technically not the highest gasoline tax in the US, it is the highest price to the consumer. Now, they also say highest income tax in America. Yeah, it's like 13.5% in high, which is, oh, that's just viscerally disgusting. Imagine more than, already, I would argue more than half of all of our income goes to the government through the myriad of taxes. But imagine more than half of just your income just stolen between the feds and the state. They also say record homelessness in California. Yeah. Now, that also got 58 likes. Let's see here. Noah Christopher says, quote, Newsom crying on camera while LA burns his peak Democrat leadership. Emotional theatrics instead of action. Californians aren't scared of Trump. They're scared of lawlessness in the streets, cartel crime, and a governor who protects rioters over residents. Trump's enforcing the law and order. Newsom's bragging for feelings. One's leading, the other is auditioning for a damn Netflix drama. 179 likes. Aaron has a picture of a meme of Gavin Newsom and says, quote, we're Democrats, we don't do accountability. And it's Newsom laughing and holding his hands like an evil Bond villain, looking extra slimy. Though, again, I don't have much ground to stand on when it comes to visual appearances, though I partially digress. Arthur Eagleman also says gaslighting like the best. Sorry, this is Hunter Eagleman saying gaslighting like the best of them, getting 132 likes. Yeah, I don't think anyone believes California leadership is actually authentic. And again, they've been in charge for how many years now in California? But yet they still find a way to blame Trump and Republicans for this. Yeah. But, as crazy as it sounds, I'm sure people just reelected Newsom time and time again. But maybe they won't. Let me know in the comments, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Ford recalling nearly 500,000 SUVs because, whoops, the door trim might just fall off. Now, this is brought to us thanks to automotivedive.com. And they say, quote, Ford recalls 472,000 SUVs for exterior door trim that can detach. The company is currently working on a remedy and will notify consumers when it's available. I'm sorry, I should put a visual disclaimer on this part of the video. You now have to see a Ford SUV. Ugh. At least the red is moderately attractive in terms of the paint scheme that they chose for the SUV, but yeah, not great, Ford. Now, they say, quote, Ford is recalling more than 492,2016 to 2017 Explorer models for exterior B-pillar door trim on the driver's and front passenger side that may come loose or detach while driving, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The recalled trim piece was introduced in assembly in June 2015. In April 2017, the automaker introduced assembly processes improvements to ensure that part was adequately secured, aka probably got some more nice 3M adhesive tape. They say, according to the NHTSA, Ford currently does not have a remedy available for nearly 500,000 recalled Ford Explorer models, but it will notify consumers about the recall and potential safety risk by June 9th. Second letter will be mailed out once a remedy is made available. Imagine that. Here's a nice letter in the mail. Your car might fall apart. You don't know how to fix it, but just so you know. Which, again, not safety advice, but if I were there, duct tape tends to fix most problems in life. I'm going to go really fancy, get the clear packaging tape so it's not, as apparent that your Ford vehicle is falling apart. Though, again, it does say Ford on the hood of the vehicle, so people will probably assume that it is, by default, falling apart as they continue to have more recalls than any other company. More than 40 this year thus far. 40, which I suppose is impressive, but not in a good way. Now, they say that, quote, Ford has been aware of the problem since July 2019. And now they're only getting to us. When the company published a technical service bulletin introducing the dealership service technicians how to repair the loose B-pillar door trim on the driver's side for 2011-2019 Explorer models. In the TSB, the automaker cited a potential lack of adhesion to the front and upper door molding to the door. Whoops. Not enough glue. Or 3M tape. However, at the time, Ford did not consider the issue unreasonable risk of safety due to, quote, low mass geometry of the part. And, wow, another prior discussions with the NHTSA about the separate trim piece detachment topic in 2018, the details of which were not identified in the recall report. In March, NHTSA's Office of Defect Investigations notified Ford of 38 vehicle owner questionnaires received with complaints of the driver and or passenger front door B-pillar trim partially or fully detaching from the 2016 to 2017 Ford Explorers. Following the notification, Ford's critical concern review group, the CCRG, fancy, opened an investigation on March 25. They say that from April to May, Ford's CCRG and body exterior team investigated the root cause for the trim detachments, which included collecting Ford Explorer doors from scrapyards for analysis at the automaker's Central Labs facility. The investigation also included a review of photos of parts associated with warranty claims. He said that Ford concluded that the loose trim was a result of improper application of adhesive wet out during assembly. Ford's Field Review Committee then approved a recall on May 16th, estimated 4% of the recalled Explorers are believed to have the defect, according to the recall report. As of April, Ford is aware of 1,482 warranty claims received between December 2015 and February 2025, but is not aware of any accidents or injuries related to the loose or detached door trim, which, okay, that's some upside. They did note that Ford has issued, oh wow, it's more than I thought. It's 40. Ford has issued 69 recalls covering 3.5 million vehicles since January, according to NHTSA. It's the highest number of any automaker so far in 2025. In comparison, General Motors has only had 12, which I make fun of GM a lot, though again, I love that they have a stick shift with the V8. Very rare thing these days. Cadillac CT5V Blackwing. Someday I'll get one, but even GM has only had 12 recalls. And again, some of these recalls are very simple, like require a software update or not too critical. But geez Louise, 69 recalls, and GM has only had 12. And again, thankfully, this is not that serious in terms of no one's been hurt. It's not a powertrain issue with the engine or transmission. But I gotta say, Ford having yet another recall, in this case, not securing your trim piece properly. I gotta say, Ford, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so you can click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.